Hey guys, thanks for watching. The best way to support the show is to go into the description as well as the pinned comment. There is a locals, there's a Patreon with daily behind the scenes videos. There's also a PayPal, a Cash App, and a Buy Me a Coffee. All good ways to support. Most of you guys support in the $3 to $5 a month, which is amazing. The big three revenue streams are YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify, and those can and will fluctuate wildly and sometimes outright cancel me. The show needs about $5,000 a month to run. Right now, it's making about $1,500 from fans alone. I want to get that up to $5,000 a month so that the big three can go pound sand and the show can remain independent. The show does take money. It's just what it is. If you can only donate $1 a month, that is awesome. So if you could, please think about it. Go in there. If you want something else, there's also Sport Drink. That link is in the description. You can use promo code TPC for 10% off or promo code Tommy's Podcast, as well as Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. And if you can't do any of that, I would ask that you go to ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. It's a group of special forces guys from 1993 till now, and they rescue about 10 or 11 kids every single year who are sex trafficked. They physically go and rescue them. So if you have to support one thing, I'd ask that you please support them. They are literally saving the lives of children. Um, Thank you so much. And we are recording on Friday, March 20th, 2026 at 10:06 a.m. Eastern Time with Mr. Halsey English, Mr. Ian Burlingame. You guys can go into the description. You can find the links to all this, the Substacks, Patreons, the Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, whatever the fuck. Halsey, because it's been a minute since I've seen you, I'm gonna let you kick it
hmm
off. What what chaos is unfolding today?
Um, it's chaos to the point where there's so much nonsense going on that I'm like I don't want to call it a crisis, but I'm having like issues lately. Like anyone will tell you that does Twitter Spaces or podcasts with me that I have the patience of a saint because I can just I want to hear what people have to say even if I disagree with them, and I'm usually like I want to hear, I want to speak, whatever. I've been like snapping on people that I've been friends with for like years, like all the time now. It's like my patience is done. Like it's a bit of a like crisis, you know?
I imagine to a degree that's by design, not at you specifically, but in
Yes.
Right.
general. Yeah,
Yes.
just turning up the frequency.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. Look at all of this use of AI. Like we had a transition from just, bots swearing at you and using all of the derogatives and the pejoratives against us to these long form, look how, look how deep analysis we have on this aspect or this aspect or this aspect. And they start out clever enough that you'll actually expand the tweet a little bit,
Hmm.
but then you get in there a little bit and you're like, oh, okay, this is just right. And they're everywhere, and they're from accounts that these aren't small accounts. These are accounts that got tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of followers. And you're like, where the hell do all these counts come from? And who the hell are all these people? And is this
hmm
a bot or not? And we're at a and you realize rather quickly if you run those through one or more, like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and Grok, you realize, oh, somebody's using AI and a narrative script, and
hmm
there's vast amount of spend being put into all kinds of, this transition from the snarkiness to an erudite information warfare attack. And the
hmm
problem is, those of us that take the erudite stuff serious and ignore the snarkies, we've been getting caught in it. Because again, like I said, I'll read some of it before I realize, oh, this is nonsense.
Mm.
What makes it worse that is you trigger the algorithm that sends you more slop.
Sends you even more. So you know what I
You
do?
know,
I trick the
like
algorithms by I go intentionally look at cat videos and I go
I do the
intentionally
same
look at
thing.
something
I
else.
put botany or something in and I go look at flowers for 10 minutes.
I do.
Right?
And then, I do the exact same thing where I hit travel into the search and just look at like pretty pictures of castles. You
There
know what
you
I'm
go.
saying? And then like next thing you know, my timeline's a bit better. Yeah, I do the same thing.
I did. I've
Right?
I've noticed that during the COVID years at the pod, you'd always have people and you're killing grandma, and you're always just like fuck off. But I noticed after a while they did start to, and I didn't even see it at first. It'd be people who would
Yes.
just be like, you know what, man, agree with Tommy or not, at least he's talking about it. I'd be thanks, bro. a couple weeks go by, like, yeah, you know, it's you, but you've kind of been hitting this nonstop. Aren't you getting tired of this too? And as you push it further, it would eventually be like, I don't think podcasting is your thing, man. Have you ever thought about stuff? And then you'd go, I think you just fucking hate that I'm exposing Anthony Fauci, and the person would be like, "Fuck you, you fucking Nazi scum," and it's like, that was you all along, and
Correct.
holy
So
shit,
Correct.
yeah,
here's the problem, Tommy, and this I try my best that when something's off with me, I try to like do a self-analysis. I want to figure out what's bothering me,
yeah,
you know, because I know it's not just like one of my kids did something at school, or like I know it's not something stupid if it's like affecting me for a while, right? And I was reading an article. I'd sent it to EM, and I sent it to a bunch of people. Fantastic article. I agreed with some of it and disagreed with some of it. But I think this is my problem right now. And I was talking to Tom Luongo about this the other night too. Explaining this stuff to people who aren't mentally capable of understanding it is incredibly frustrating. Like it's like in the movies when you'll have some jock and like someone will explain something to him. He's like, "Yeah, fuck you, dude," you know, and it's like, okay, I get it, but it's like the retards are in charge right now. Like 99 percent of what you see is retarded stuff, but you know that if it's not a bot, the person behind it would be incapable of understanding what you're saying anyway. So,
Yeah,
and
it's not
I'm
even
not
an
talking about the opinion stuff. I'm talking about the factual stuff. Like if you explain an alliance, right? And someone says, "Well, what do we get out of it?" And you say, "I'm going to explain what we get out of it, not in theoretical terms, in actual dollar cents terms." And then they'll look at you and go, "Yeah, but do we even want that?" It's like you did. That wasn't the question. You know, you
it's
asked me, what do we get out of it? I'm telling you what we get out of it. Like you can make your decisions on what that means yourself. You asked me a question, I'm answering it. And they attack you like you just, you know, punch them in the face instead of just answer the question. And you realize, okay, this person's too stupid to
well, let's
understand the answer.
I want to pause there, Halsey.
Okay.
I want to pause there because I think you bring up something very important that we need to all step back. Okay.
Okay.
Those of us are old enough to remember the time before the
I'm
1970s,
one of them.
right? The 1970s and the early 80s into the mid 80s.
Well, I don't remember that. That was when I was born, but
Yeah, okay. Um, we remember a time when the voices in the media and the news and academia were calm, they were rational, they were their entire focus was not to incite, their intention was to impart.
Mhm.
However, in the 80s, really starting in the Clinton era, and I'm not going to put this on the Clintons because they're just puppets,
I'm going to
not
have a lot to
controlled,
say about what you're talking about. So
not
go ahead.
controlled by strings, but controlled by appetites, because that's the
Hmm.
stronger strings for these types, right? Um, Give me a second. I wonder if that cigar brand went up in value after that whole. Anyways, that's an
had
aside.
had to have,
Had to have,
had to.
right? Had to have a little subtle vote. Yeah. Anyways, the old marketing guy in me. Point is that after
Like the
40
like the
years,
like the maker's mark dipped.
yeah,
Hmm.
Sorry,
yeah.
you go.
I'm talking about the frat house conversation we were having before we went online.
Clinton's not controlled appetites. Back to the 80s, 90s
Yeah,
in part
yeah. So
wisdom.
point is that um, it has been my experience in life that people are way more intelligent than they're allowed to be. And we need to
Hmm.
be very careful not to ascribe to people that they're dumb and stupid. What we have to realize is that for the last 40 years, they've been intentionally put out of their cognitive space into their emotional space and then locked there and kept there every minute of every day with accelerating emotional triggers.
Hmm.
So,
I
what
agree with
I've
you on that.
right? So it's not necessarily that people are dumb. It's actually the best educated. Yes, the lower end has fallen off, but the middle and the higher end are the best educated group, cohorts of three generations the world has ever known. The
But there's
issue
a
is,
difference between education and critical thinking, and
well,
they
I
haven't
totally
been
get
taught
that.
critical
I
thinking.
totally get that. But in order to have critical thinking, to get to the neocortex, right? So the way in which the
Hmm.
brain works, a pause, a pause, a pause. I won't bore people, but you have to pause for a certain number of milliseconds. I don't remember what it is. It's something like 40 milliseconds, 12 milliseconds, depending on, okay, to go from amygdala to prefrontal cortex. Okay. Once you get into the prefrontal cortex, now you're doing non-emotional critical thinking, critical reasoning, and you're not doing it in whole. You're doing it in pieces and parts, etc. So you've got to get unemotional in different avenues of things being thrown at you. Okay. 40 years of creating an environment and situation to where most all people are not able to get out of their amygdala. They're very, very rarely allowed in whole, meaning allowed the rest, the patience, the calm, provided information in an imparting way, not an inciting way, etc., so that they can get into the prefrontal cortex and do some critical processing. However, those that do, even the ones that seem to be the dumbest, they tend to process it pretty well. So I don't want to, and I made this mistake the other day, and I really caught myself and realized that I was having this conversation. It is not that people are dumb. People are rather intelligent. The problem is that everything in our environment is designed to keep them in an emotional state, in a constantly barely not triggered or triggered in 30 different ways and borderline triggered in 100 other ways, so that they can never. And so if we watch the way in which the information flow is going, when people start, you can watch on Twitter, it's like just textbook clinical. It's like being in a conversation with an estrogenic. They're constantly keeping you on the border of defensiveness, accusations of shit you said or did that you didn't do or say. So, and they're always keeping you in a place where they can trigger you at any moment with one of 300,000 things you're not even really paying attention to. And things will go calm and mellow when they realize they're losing the argument. And then once they think they've got a turn, or they think that there's enough of us are getting up into the neocortex where we're reaching other parts of the population and community, they'll throw all kinds of shit in there and trigger us in all kinds of ways. So people are smart, way smarter than we give them credit for. They're just locked in the sympathetic versus the parasympathetic systems. Okay. So what do we have to do? I posted on this the other day, and then yesterday I pretty much just checked out and took a day off. Because another friend was found dead, and that one hit me harder.
I saw the tweet. I wanted to tell you I was sorry about that.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate it. He was a good man. He didn't commit suicide, by the way, just for anybody who's out there. He had a
loss is loss is loss.
He had a sudden massive heart attack because there was nothing left, right?
Yeah.
I had someone this week from cancer, so I know what you're going through. It's tough.
It's what happens when a man gives up, right? He has a heart attack or dies of a cancer quickly, right? Like within months, no matter what they do.
Yeah.
So give me 1 second.
No, you're good.
So I checked out yesterday, right? And I looked in on Twitter just a couple of times, but one of the things I posted right before, before Pat's, the notification of Pat's death, I posted that the only way you can defeat fifth generation warfare is you cannot get emotional. And the problem is that it isn't as subtle as not being triggered. That doesn't mean you're not emotional. It means you're not triggered. But down underneath, and what it means generally is that you are suppressing a whole lot of emotional shit, and it's too easy to trigger you, and you don't know it because you think you're under control. While underneath in the default mode network, which is 90% of the processing of the brain and the nervous system, you're emotional as fucking hell. They just haven't brought up the right trigger to.
They haven't, yeah.
Right. And you want an example, you want a prime example, and somebody came at me this morning, I think in good faith, but with a leading estrogenic like question. Joe Kent caused it. Boom, cracked that emotional, that illusion that, us gunfighters are, in a complete emotional control space. Right? You can see, and, on the other side, most of the negative shit, just over the top is not humans, it's bots, right?
And if they are human, they're not human.
Yeah, they're NPCs.
The pure, no, not even that.
Yeah,
When it's the pure vitriolic black hate, you're like, that's a sad person.
It's resentful,
So
Yeah.
I
right?
just
You're
wanted to bring up
resentful, or yeah, go ahead.
on what you said before. I wonder if you read the study or if you just noticed what the study's authors also noticed. It's funny that you bring up the time period, right, where it changed.
Yeah.
They did an exhaustive study I want to say out of Stanford, but I'd have to look it up again. And it was such a big study that Michael Crichton actually wrote a book about it called State of Fear. That the media completely changed in 1989 because of the fall of the Iron
Soviets.
Curtain. They needed
Yeah.
a new
Yeah.
enemy to keep, and they said the use of terms like catastrophe and crisis and all of that went up like hundreds of percent
Yeah.
to the
Well,
point where
and
like
yeah, sorry, Halsey, go ahead.
and it was so effective that that's why cable news started to become a thing right around the same time, where it wasn't that you waited until the night to watch the news or waited till you got a paper. It was that it was 24/7, let me piss you off every minute by bringing up another thing that's a crisis
Well, and
or
who was the new Soviets, the new boogeyman? White men.
of course. Well, we were the old one too, because remember the
Oh.
communists were white too. So that it was we were the old one, but they just took the communist
No,
part
no,
out of
no,
it.
but this is well, yes, but this is quite different. White men in academia, etc., because of
Hmm.
papers written by lesser men and vitriolic women who wanted to get laid, turned on white men. Why? Because that's the competition, right? That's the
Hmm.
competition in the world for, mate selection. So once the imminent physical threat is gone of nuclear war, who is an equal, what enemy, when you have an external physical enemy with potential of nuclear or other great physical threat, lesser status people have a role because everybody in the society is organized towards, preventing this from happening. They have status or places where they can earn status. When you take away that external threat, they have very little value anymore in a polity, in an economy. And so
Hmm.
now they don't have the ability to earn status and status hierarchies against people who just naturally have status or earn status, which are white men. Now, not solely
Hmm.
white men, but capable men is what I should say, of any ethnicity, race, whatever, right?
Hmm.
But
Well,
in our world,
that's where the whole shift to privilege came from. It was that the places where, and it was majority white people,
yes,
but
yeah.
I mean it could be any race, but the idea of privilege
Well,
is
in
to
China, it
take
would be Chinese. In Russian,
right,
in parts of Africa, it would be certain African tribes, right? So
sure,
privileges, yeah, yeah, yeah.
but the privilege argument takes away the accomplishments of what someone's good at biologically. If a group of people are naturally intelligent, right? Then they don't need to be physically superior to an enemy to win a war because they'll invent a gun, right? So it's that's the way that it is. But when you ascribe all of that to privilege, now you bring everything down to pure physicality. So
Well,
you say that
yeah.
Africa would be the world's dominant colonial power if only white privilege didn't exist. Whites were given guns, blacks were not. Therefore, they were able to conquer a far superior physical people. That's what you do by ascribing to privilege what is usually ascribed to intelligence. So
I'm
it's
sure glad
it's
those aliens gave us white people guns.
right. Well, I could blow your mind on some of the shit that some of these people believe. Oh my God! Like, have you heard of the Yaqub thing?
Yeah, yeah.
No,
This is a real
no.
thing. I was blown away. This is Nation of Islam, like Malcolm X. Like they came up with an entire story. They claim they've proven genealogically that the world was all black people, and that they were so smart, they bred and invented a white Borg called Yaqub, who eventually grew out of control, replicated himself, and made more white people who then dominated black people. But it was only from their like far superior intelligence that this
Uh,
Yaqub Borg
they
was
have all these
created.
videos coming up on YouTube now about how Irish were black only several thousand years ago. All based ostensibly off DNA studies. But if you look, the study either doesn't exist, or the study was very poorly done, or the study doesn't say that at all.
Yeah,
It'll
but they were all
So
Jews.
they're
You know
not
that.
done with
They
all
weren't black.
this.
it'll take
They weren't
70
black. They were
million
all Jews.
years. It'll take 70 million years to turn a black person to as white as I am. I'll tell you
No,
that.
but I'm saying they weren't black. They were all Jews. That's what the Irish were.
I
I'm
don't.
seeing how. Honestly, I'm just
Oh,
seeing if I could
Jesus
trigger
Christ.
EM. We've had this conversation before. I'm seeing how bad I
Well,
could trigger
Halsey,
EM.
I get it. You're at war with yourself because you're an Irish Jew, and that's got to
I
be some
know.
conflicts there.
Can you imagine that I literally have the intelligence of the Jew, but the self-doubt of the Irish? Like
Still is.
I'm
Still is the
constantly
Irish
at war with
Israelite.
myself.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Wait
Huh?
a second. Jews are always tearing each other down, also, right?
Oh
You're
no,
the only
we're
people I know that every time you run across another one of your people or somebody else, you rattle off your resumes before the rest of the conversation can even begin.
oh bro, it's
It's
so
like the
much worse than that.
weirdest
When
dick
you meet when
measuring.
Bro, it's way worse than that. If I were to go to visit someone for Shabbat, right, and I go to a new shul that I've never been at, and someone goes, "Oh, I want to introduce you to all these people," every one of them will look at me and go, "Oh, what do you do?" That's that, like they don't even ask you about your
Yeah.
family and where
Then
you're
you got to
from. They say,
list
"What do you
off your
do?" And they
whole
start
freaking.
from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They start from what is your profession, and then they go down to, "Oh,
Well,
and
it's
how many
because
kids do you
it's
have?" Or
because you all have been the managerial class for 800 years, 900 years. So of course that's where you go, right? Because that's
yeah.
how you figure out in the managerial class what your status is.
Do you want to
So
know
let's go
something?
back to the
Hold on,
triggering
dude, do you
and
want to know
emotion.
some? You want to know something
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of funny related to this?
yeah, yeah.
When applying to med school, you do your first one. I think it's called AMCAS, whatever. Just goes out to everyone, and then if you're not retarded, you'll get secondary applications from almost every school you apply to because it costs $80, and the med school gets to pocket it. So it's in their interest to get. So it does,
Mhm.
if you get a second, that's not a pat on the back, and you fill them all out, and then they all tell you to fuck off, and some of them give you an interview. They're all almost the same. Why would you want this school, not that? Blah blah blah. I'll always remember filling out the Harvard secondary because I had no questions about your GPA, your MCAT, or accomplishments. It simply had one drag and drop question, and it's, do you have any family alumni at Harvard? That was they didn't ask for your GPA. They didn't ask for your nothing. That was the question. That and that alone. So kind of back to
Yep.
bloodlines and what do you do? That was next level. What do you do? It wasn't even what's your. They were just
Hmm.
straight up like, you one of us? How far back does it
Yeah.
go? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And
Well,
then what they
because
do, what
what
they
were
do.
colleges? What were colleges historically? They're for smart people and rich people. That's what that. Those are
yeah,
where what colleges were
you're
made
corralling.
for.
Yeah, you're corralling the leading class or whatever you want to call it. But
Oh, the
Right.
potential
So what
future
would be the
leaders.
ultimate admission you'd want is someone who's both smart and rich.
yeah,
So first they test you to see that you're smart enough, and then they want to give you even more status if you're also rich.
yeah.
But and then
Well, and
once they
then
run
they
out of rich people,
recruit
they'll just go to
you.
smart.
Then they recruit you in the CIA so that you're smart, rich, and you feel cool because you did
Yeah.
cool guy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's a big part of why they do it. It's
Of
very
course.
psychologically well done. It's how they
Sexy.
keep the system going,
Sure.
keep it all going because, you're not just, so you got a group of smart and rich people, and they are
Hmm.
a fairly sizable group, by the way. Okay, well, how do you differentiate in there the ones that are the cool guys? Oh, well, they got recruited by MI6 or the CIA, and
Yeah.
Well, I'm with the company. I can't, that's why I can't. That's
yeah,
why I can't
So
join
wait,
the
I got to
tribe.
change the subject real
yeah.
quick because we've got a half an hour, and if I don't ask EM
We can
now,
go long. We can
then
go
I'm going to
longer.
wind
That's
up.
I throw
No,
that
I,
as
I
a,
I only have about
all
an
right.
hour, but maybe a little longer. But my problem is if I don't ask him now, I'm going to call him later, which is going to turn into a 3 hour phone call. So I'd rather just ask him now. So what do you think of the Joe Kent thing now? Like, has your opinion changed at all?
No, no,
It hasn't.
no.
Okay.
In fact, it's become stronger.
Okay.
It's become stronger. And when I look at the nature of the attacks against, when I listen to the coordinated notion, I mean, the absolute amount of coordination of messaging, the leaking stuff, just the pure ludicrousness of the claims being made. He was leaking. He wasn't invited to the meetings. All that. He's the head of the NCTC. He has one of the highest security clearances the world has ever seen,
Hmm.
and he's not going to be involved in these things. They're going to ostracize him. That doesn't work. It just, structurally, mechanically, operationally, functionally, what their claims don't work. But it's very coordinated and it's coming from high level folks and then all the tier twos and three voices, and then it's picked up by all the bots and the NPCs and everybody else. There is a coordinated attack here. However, if you, on the other side, if you take a step back and you look at both Rubio's statement of a week or so ago, and you look at Kent's statement, and then you look at other things that have been coming out, their statements are corroborated. Their statements are corroborated. So, okay, I've been saying this for like the last 2 years. I don't know that Israel survives, and this is what brought you and I together, Halsey, right? I think a deal's been made, but that doesn't mean that with Netanyahu et al., but that doesn't mean that the factions within Israel and the greater, power structure, the city of London, Brussels, et cetera, that's pulling their strings, and here in the U.S. as well, right? That doesn't mean that all those factions are going to go along with the deal necessary that Israel survives.
I can agree with that.
Right? It doesn't mean that they're not going to blow that Israelis themselves, the resentful factions aren't willing to blow Israel up.
I'm deciding how much I want to get into this. I agree generally with what you just said, right? Although I believe that Israel's destruction is next to impossible. Okay, because could it be diminished? Yes. Could it be isolated? Yes. Could there be a chance that it turns into South Africa? Maybe in the long run. But in the end, they still hold nukes. So and I just don't believe that anyone would be willing to want to escalate to that level.
So I'm gonna say a thing.
Don't worry about pissing me off. If you piss me off, I'll just tell you.
I'm just trying to not think about you, Halsey. I mean, I am, but I'm thinking about the broader community. I've said this before, and I will reiterate it now. Were Israel to use a nuke, we would nuke Israel to de-escalate.
If they used it against Arabs,
if they use it against anybody,
I don't agree with you.
Okay, well, you think the Jews control us then, or that they're too much powerful,
No,
or that we're going to let some little thumbnail country drive the world to nuclear war, or that we're going to allow some little thumbnail country and some population of less than 20 million people control the world with the threat of using a nuke? That's what bitches do.
I didn't say any of that. But I know that.
But that's what that is what you are articulating. Is that
it's not.
Hang on a second, Halsey.
Right.
We are not going to let 8.5 billion people die because of a small population, a little avant country can threaten.
I didn't say that either, though. You're taking what I said to a point that isn't what I'm saying.
So
what I said is that Israel has the ability that if the Arabs are at the door, right, the Arab armies are closing in, and it looks like the jig is up, right? I didn't say that they would lead to a nuclear war like with the whole world or launch 100 nuclear weapons.
They launch one nuke. It takes the world to World War III, and World War III goes nuclear quick.
I don't think it does.
Pakistan has already said that if Israel uses nukes, they will nuke Israel.
I'm saying
that we'll probably let them do it. And then we'll make sure behind the scenes that Russia, China, and the U.S. don't get involved unless one of those nukes goes in the wrong direction. People need to understand something.
You might be right. You might be right, but I don't. I believe that a lot of people say a lot of things, and I don't believe that Pakistan, because again, a nuclear exchange even between Israel and Pakistan would be devastating.
That's not what I said. What did I articulate? Yes, it's any nuke use is devastating, but if the only three real powers, America, Russia, China, have sandboxed and isolated, do you think we wouldn't let the Middle East nuke itself? As long as we made sure it didn't get out of there and pop out. We're done. The point I'm getting at is this. We are done being blackmailed. We are done with the Praetorian Guard threatening us, physically, violently threatening us and our leaders to control the fucking world, enslave our children, and sell our fucking children. We're done with it.
But again, I think we're talking about two different things.
We are not talking about two different things, because you went straight to the nuclear option as if we have to do what Israel says or they're going to nuke somebody.
No, I went to the nuclear option when you said that Israel might not survive. And I said that if that were the case, that there is still a doomsday scenario.
There are all kinds of ways that Israel doesn't survive. And primarily,
and you might be right. Themselves. I've acknowledged that could be. Okay. Well, I'm just saying I don't see that right now as being... And
the world's changed, Halsey. The world's changed.
The world has changed to the point where the world has changed to the point where, and honestly, I've been talking about this all week to the point where I said it's making me mad. Okay, I don't know the uncertainty of 2028, what happens at that point. That's where I'm not afraid of what happens in the next 2 years, right? I'm afraid I don't know what all of these psyops and all of this bullshit that's going on and all of the bots and all of the misinformation, all the AI slop everywhere, and all of this riling up of the entire world population for or against whatever cause it may be. When the 2028 elections come, I don't know what happens because I don't know. I'm not privy to the plans. No one's sitting me down and saying these will be the nominees. They will cheat. They will not cheat. They will like where will the country be economically? All of that is up in the air. None of us will know until it happens, right? So what I'm saying is that up until 2028, I have a pretty good idea of where the permanence is going to be in terms of what the world would allow or would not allow. After 2028, I don't have the slightest idea because I'm not sure what all of this is for. You know what I'm saying? Like,
We don't know.
I don't believe that I struggle with your terms because I know you created most of them, so it's like it's hard for because I don't know if I'm talking about the right people, right? But like when I say like the City of London or Davos or the WEF, I believe they're not stupid. Okay? Like I believe they overreach sometimes, but I believe that when they implement these kind of global chaos theories where they're going to just bring the world to chaos because it serves their purposes, I don't think they're doing it and they're just losing control. Like I think that a lot of times they're playing a long game. And I don't know what the long game is right now. Remember, I'm one of the few people who honestly believes that in both 2016 and 2020, they let Trump get elected. I don't believe he won those elections. I believe that they act like they stole it for Biden in 2020. I believe they gave it to Trump in 2016 and 2020. I don't believe we have real elections in our country anymore. So if that's the case, this is the like I tell people this all the time, and they want to joke with me about it, but because they think I'm kidding, but I'm not. The question that I will till my dying day be trying to answer is, was he in on it? Did he know they were electing him on purpose because he has a specific role to fulfill, and that's what he's doing, right? Or did they say let's elect Donald Trump because he'll be XYZ, we can control him, or we know how to trigger him, or we can infiltrate his inner circle, or it's going to dog me until the day I die. Was he in on it? Because he was always a Democrat. He was always on the inside of all these people. Everybody loved Donald Trump right until
He
2016.
wasn't a Democrat. He's just a rich guy in New York City, and you got to be whatever you got to be as a rich guy in New York City.
But I'm saying a
Right.
rich guy in New York City is a Democrat. Like,
Yeah, well,
even if they're not, they're a Democrat. You know, like I'm just saying that he was on the inner circle. He was buddies with
born
all
into it.
these people. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
But what
so-
I'm saying though is that it just seems like the fact that again, Hillary Clinton had every poll, had every there was not a single there were people that were like making like weird predictions, but they were just basing it on their gut feelings. Hillary Clinton had like a 98% chance of winning that election, and it
No,
just
she
didn't happen.
She had all of it was bullshit, man. She's the most hated woman, white woman in particular, in frickin' American history.
But that's my point, is that I still feel like in the end, they knew he was going to win from the beginning. That's why they ran her in the first place, so it would
There
be
you go,
believable.
because there's no way she could have won. The only reason
Right.
any of that was frickin' theirs because all the numbers. So I want to go back to something about the long game,
Right.
right? And Tom talks to this, Tom Luongo, and he's spot on this. Israel's an asset. They
Mhm.
are in the process of burning assets to try and win the long game.
Mhm.
Israel's an asset that was always going to be burned
Mhm.
right from inception.
Mhm.
It was always an asset to, draw in a conflagration to a much larger fight.
100%. Me and you have talked about this as well. I agree with you on that.
So, point is that the three great powers of the world. Now we're still working out our internal power struggle, and we don't know exactly how that's going to go. To your point, and I don't know. Also, to your point about elections, they're all fake and gay, anyways, and have been for over 40 years, maybe long. Retarded, fake, and gay. Excuse me. There's a new political party, right?
Okay.
And that's at every level. People really need to look at the down ballot. What's happening at the federal level is important, but it's really the down ballot where most of the threats are happening in our own communities. The imminent threats. Um, uses a nuke, they're going to get nuked off the planet.
Okay,
People are
but you
done.
know what?
We're
We can
done.
just agree to disagree on it.
We're
We can agree to disagree.
here. There is a substantive enough number of very capable warfighters in more than just the United States
Agreed.
who are done with this Judeo-Christian Abrahamic belief system, constant fucking petty bitch warfare. We're done
Agreed.
with it. And we'll nuke the whole fucking center, the whole Abrahamic world off the fucking planet if we need to. We're done with this shit. We're done with it in our own communities. We're done with it around the world. We're done being held fucking hostage by some little thumbnail country that's got nukes that might use them.
Again, that wasn't what I said, but I tend to agree with what you're saying right now.
So well, this might be something that's occurring. Maybe what's happening is we're moving the world to a place where negotiations are going on so that Israel is allowed to survive, but it gives up its nukes.
Um, I- Honestly, no one's ever posed that question to me. My gut feeling is that would never happen.
Well, then Israel's done.
No, I don't agree with that either. But I believe that we're
going to allow a tiny little fucking thumbnail country and population to threaten the entire world.
I didn't say that.
No, I know that, but I'm articulating something. 8.5 billion people are going to be threatened by some little thumbnail country and some little tiny
8.5 billion people aren't threatened.
Smaller than the population of freaking Tokyo, the entire population globally. But that's what you're saying.
Again, no,
we either do what Israel wants, or it's going to
because what you're saying is that it ends in global World War III nuclear war. I didn't say that. When I said that Israel will use a nuke, I basically meant that it's like there is no more Israel as it stands right now. It's either they all die without using a nuke or they all die with using one. So
there's a whole lot of other ground in between there where Israel gets to survive, etc., but it doesn't get to survive as a belligerent on the world stage. It doesn't.
So again, do I disagree with that? I don't believe that they are a belligerent on the world stage, but at the same time, I don't. But and we can argue about that if you want. But what I'm saying is that my issue when I first even talked to you about this, right? What did I say? I want to disprove it because I think you're right. I didn't say that I think you're wrong and therefore I want to disprove it. We're not arguing from a basis that I don't think that scenario is true. What I'm saying though is that the asset that you were talking about it being an asset, okay? That is a European thing. That is what we're detaching from in the first place.
Yes.
Okay, but I don't believe that, especially in America, that we're at the point of accepting that we're now European colonialists wanting to do the same chaos nonsense. We want to get out of these things, not deeper into them.
Yes, but
okay,
so when a global empire pulls back, or any empire at all, when an empire pulls back, it has to burn it pulls back to the core. It has to burn the threats out in the periphery, in the second tier, third tier, second tier, and back to the first tier, so that there is no threat surface areas out there that can come and destroy the core.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or draw us out of the core to go try and save somebody else and then get ourselves into a freaking ambush. So you have to systematically, steadily burn any of the threat capacities out there while you're building new alliances, new relationships, new dependencies that are beneficial, to those who live outside the edge. So it's last mile edge and core for telecom guys is probably the easiest way to say it. But it's a tiering thing, and you burn out your fuckery assets, and you burn out your war fighting capacities that you built up over maybe a century, and you change, you root out your bad actors in different systems and structures, etc. And then you consistently work, and you do it in such a way that they know you hit us, we're going to hit you back even harder. But you don't utterly destroy them because you don't want to leave a vacuum out there. You want, okay. So you slowly, steadily chew through all of this conflict, fighting, personnel kind of stuff. While you're doing that, though, you're forming new business alliances, new economic alliances. You're excusing some debts here and there. You're setting up or helping those people in that tier, before you go to the next one, reorient and realign themselves so that they can survive and thrive once the empire pulls back. Because you don't want chaos, perpetual chaos. You don't want the threat of a fucking nuke sitting out there that some idiot can use. Right? And they don't even have to fire it off.
I'm letting you finish before I respond because I want to see where you're going with this.
Some idiot Israel doesn't even have to fire the nuke. Just some idiot has to set it off in Israel itself to get what they want. Right?
Yeah, but again, maybe I told you I've had a bit of an issue explaining myself lately. I've been very upset about this because I usually don't have this issue. Okay. What I mean by, and maybe it was just a spur of the moment thing that set off an argument I'm not making. Okay, what I'm making is the argument that the American empire, I'm not talking about
which is the English empire,
the American empire. Okay, I believe the separation from Europe is real. I believe the pullback is real. I believe all of that. Right. But I also believe that the allies that America favors above all are the ones that detract from the ability to target America itself. Okay. I don't believe that they want Israel to be defanged so they can't cause trouble. I think that I'm telling you. I think that the reason that they want Israel there is because then Israel is now the shield. They can keep attacking Israel and not attack us.
That was
I think the same thing with India. I think
that
India
was a British European thing, not an American thing.
No, but I think that America has established a new kind of frontier where there's an honest to God alliance of intelligence and technology through America, India, and Israel. Japan, I think, is also a big part of it, but I think their population is a real problem.
Halsey, here's what's going to happen. If that is the case, then then America is in a much worse place than people think, because
I already said that I think America's in a worse place than people think.
The war fighters will not go for that alliance. We will.
You know what? Perfect. This is where I wanted to go. No, wait. I agree with you on this. Okay. And this is what I meant before, because I didn't want to get into it too in depth because I didn't want to get into the article, and I'm still not going to. But this is what I meant before when I said two people are too dumb to understand it. I just didn't mean that they were retarded, meaning they're just low IQ. I meant that most people are incapable of understanding what it takes to defend a nation now as opposed to what it used to. Okay, that the signal intelligence, the technology, the intelligence apparatuses around the world, even if they go evil on us, which they do all the time, they are still necessary. Like it's what we basically will argue about is who should control them. Okay, because they're going to be good and bad no matter what, but they have to exist. If the American government doesn't have the ability to listen in on communications, the American government will just never be able to protect its people, right? So, am I arguing they should be listening to everyone's communications, no matter who it is? Of course not. In a perfect world, no one listens to anyone's communications. But what I'm saying is that it's to explain to people the value, and take this away from Israel, say of India, right? And say there is a value to a partnership between America and India. Right? They would be incapable of understanding what I'm talking about when I try to explain the absolute necessity of these intelligence networks, technology aspects, and things like that. And usually it'll come down to, I just don't like Indians, or I don't like India having the ability to do X or Y or Z.
But these systems,
let me finish because I don't want to lose my train of thought real quick. Let me just finish. The networks that have been established are established, and they're there. And I don't believe that people are capable of understanding that, nor do I believe those networks are going to go away. The problem is exactly what you said. If you can't understand what your country is doing, you're not going to go fight and die for it.
Well,
That's
it's
the
not that we don't
problem.
understand. That's okay. So, Halsey, I want to be very careful because I don't want to ascribe to you a statement you may not have meant or said.
Okay.
But do you think the high-level war fighters, and that's the intelligence guys, and that's the whole diplomacy, information, military, economics, finance, intelligence, and law enforcement, all 7 domains, you think that
hmm
we don't know what the hell we're looking at or seeing?
No, I believe you guys do know what you're looking at and what you're seeing.
Okay,
What I
so
believe is that nobody else does.
well,
And
most don't. I agree with you on that. Now, here's the point. I'm just saying
mhm.
it publicly. Okay.
Okay.
If the factions within the United States were aligning a India-Israel-U.S. alliance, you will lose. And this, I believe very firmly, is what gets to Joe Kent, et cetera, and why it's gotten
Okay.
the specific response that it has, is that Joe Kent is telling everybody, but primarily the power right now,
hmm
that if you try and go ahead with this, you will lose your greatest strength. And that greatest strength is not your technology, and it's not your missiles, not all this other bullshit has been proven in Russia here, and in Ukraine in the last 3 years. Your greatest strength is your men. It is your greatest strength is your full spectrum warfighters, and you will
You're
lose
not
them.
as I understand why you'd be afraid of ascribing to me something that I didn't say. I
I'm not
agree with
afraid, by the
you.
way. Don't careful with the word.
No,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean.
yeah,
Come
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
don't
yeah,
have to nitpick words on that. Okay. There's no malice in anything I'm
yeah, yeah,
saying.
yeah.
So and I don't intend any malice.
I know that.
What I'm saying, though, is that I agree with you on that point. I just don't think the majority of people recognize
Well,
that.
and that's the point. Halsey, I fundamentally agree with you. That's why it was brought out into the open in the way it was brought out in the open, because that is really the conversation now.
So
See,
the
hang
Joe
on.
Kent thing, I was trying to avoid this, like because I do I think that Joe Kent originally that one story that came out where they said that he tweeted the president's schedule to Tucker Carlson. I believe that could be completely true because I don't think it's but neither here nor there. Since then, I do believe that I'm maybe I'm wrong, but I think that whether it was Tulsi or someone at that point, he was thrown under the bus. Okay, either he was encouraged to keep up his contacts, or and he thought it was just like a simple part of his job, and then when he realized that they were going to fuck him over, that's why he resigned so quick.
So, Halsey,
Or or
Hal-
again, he didn't do it in the first place, and they what's it called? They're just fucking him over.
so one of the problems that too many people have is, to your point, they're in too emotional a space, and they have absolute lack of knowledge and experience in certain professions, hands-on
hmm
experience, and thereby they ascribe to those who are filling those roles the same lack of emotional control, the same lack of knowledge, experience, etc. What they are doing is they fundamentally fail to understand who the person is sitting in that position and what capacities they really have to even be there in the first place.
Okay.
Don't think that there's a single word or sentence, or don't think that Joe Kent, after almost 30 years at this level, isn't absolutely extraordinarily careful with every word he ever uses everywhere, even with his own children.
I understand what you're saying with that, but the one difference that I'm saying with this, okay, is that, and I've seen Joe Kent's history myself too, okay, like all of his positions, and I'm not doubting his ability. What I'm saying is this is the first political role he's taken, and the rules change in the
Do
political
you
world.
think that Yeah, okay. I don't think you quite understand the world, the special operations world and the intel world. Talk about politics. Holy shit.
It's a different kind of
Holy shit.
politics.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Because ultimately, when it all comes down to it, the only people who really matter in the world are the ones who do the violence.
hmm
All these other things are dependent upon that. And so then it's a
Right.
matter of how successful your people is about how carefully you use that violence. Not
hmm
indiscriminately, not foolishly, not stupidly. The reason the United States has been so dramatically diminished is because we've been using our violence stupidly,
Okay.
and we're done with that. If you look at, Vance and Gabbard and Kent and others, We're done with the stupid, indiscriminate, expensive, self-destructive violence. That means we who have done certain things and belong to certain communities because we've earned that right. We're done with these bullshit, stupid fucking alliances that drag us into fights that aren't ours. Fights
Okay.
that shouldn't even be there. Fights that cost our people trillions of fucking dollars.
Okay.
Fights that flood tens of millions of fucking people that don't belong here, like Indians, into our country. And it's not that I dislike Indians. It's because I know that that's the British reoccupation of the English-speaking peoples. It's
I'm not
exactly
disagreeing
what it
with you.
is.
I haven't disagreed with a word you just said.
So, point being is this. Depending on where this goes, a conversation has just begun through the Joe Kent vector. And that's all that is. It's the beginning of a conversation. But it's also a selection event. And don't think that the high-end warfighters, the really capable guys that you're going to need if this actually goes to a fight, don't have a camp that they're already in. And it isn't this fucking India, Israel, U.S. alliance bullshit.
It's I'm thinking of how to respond to something else that you just said because I want to choose my words wisely here. Okay.
Judicious.
The only thing I think I disagree with what you just said is that I think that you're coming from a position, and if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, where you think this goes hot civilly at some point.
It can, but
I
that's
know,
not what I'm
but
worried.
I'm
That's
saying,
not what I'm
like-
worried about. What I'm worried about, Halsey, is this passive aggressive assumption of control of any of the middle class through who gets the middle class jobs, increasingly going to Indians, who sits at the top of all of our major corporations now and financial institutions, and more in our government and regulators at everywhere, all over the country.
Now I think I understand why you're getting pissed, but like you think I'm saying that
we're being occupied.
those things are necessary,
and we're being
I
occupied.
just,
We're being passive aggressively reoccupied by the fucking British through the Indian vector, using the Israeli Middle East conflict as a distraction, as a justification that if we don't deal with this thing in the Middle East and let all this other shit happen right here in my own fucking community, then Israel's going to use a nuke. It's like, wait a second.
So no, that I didn't say any of that.
I didn't say you. No,
And-
Halsey. I didn't say that you said it. Okay, but I'm telling you, if we carry out, those of us like 18 Foxes, guys that have done analysis, not all, right? We disagree amongst each other, etc. But as I analyze it, as others who Tommy and I mutually know, and others analyze it, that is the ultimate threat, right? Again, the only real currency is physical violence. That's the only real currency.
Okay.
All else is a derivative of that, and God bless
Okay.
it, right? But if the statement is that if we don't this, or this, Israel's going to use a nuke, well, what does that do? What it moves is okay, down to physical violence. Hang on a second. We know what the physical violence is going to be, and it's this one little group of people, controlled, managed by other people, whatever, who are going to use a nuke if we don't do this, and this. If we don't bring this alliance into play and do all these
That's not
other
what I
things.
said.
I didn't say, Halsey, I didn't say that's what you said. But
Okay.
ultimately, for the guys who are responsible for violence in the world, in their own communities and around the world, that is exactly where it goes.
That's not. But A, that's not what I said at all.
I
And
didn't
B,
say you
not
said
even what
that.
But I wasn't even talking on the same topic. What you had said to me before was, I don't know if Israel survives, and I said that I think they survive because in the end they hold the doomsday weapon. I didn't say it wasn't talking about the other stuff that you're talking about.
Okay, but
I think
Halsey, the fact that they're holding that doomsday is why Israel gets wiped off the map.
but that made neither here nor there. That's not what I was talking about. I was talking about the fact that wars end at a certain point because there's a level of violence that they're not willing to use against Israel for that reason. Because they're not going.
They're supposed to allow Israel whatever level of violence it wants until it quits because it might use a nuke. Think on the other side, man. Think on the other side, right? I totally agree with you, but we're done with blackmail, including
I'm
nuclear
not talking
blackmail.
about us. I'm not talking about us. That's what maybe I'm not making that clear. I'm not talking about the US at all in any of this. What we were talking about is whether Israel survives. Maybe the base, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Maybe the basis of where you're coming from is you believe without the US, Israel doesn't survive.
No, 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 no,
That,
no, no, no. That's not what I'm saying.
okay,
So,
because
okay, let me
then
be
I'm
clear that
confused.
let me clear this up. Okay. If the logic that you articulated in the counter to what I said, okay,
Mhm.
is that at some point, push too far, Israel will use a nuke. If that continues out there as a reality and
Mhm.
as a logic process, then that threat of Israel using a nuke is a threat to me and my family and
We're
hundreds
definitely
of
not
millions.
talking about the same thing. We're not
Well, it
talking about the
is.
same thing. No, it isn't. What I'm
All right,
saying
man.
is that
All
the
right.
way that Israel does, if under your scenario, the way that Israel doesn't survive is the entire world turns its back on Israel,
No, no,
right?
Israel self-destructs
Or it's self.
because Israel thinks that it's got this, this godlike power in its hands and it goes too far and it doesn't realize you're a tiny little thumbnail. And maybe
Mhm.
we are not the Americans are not going to use our nuclear umbrella to protect you if you use a nuke.
I didn't claim that they would. Again, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the idea of regional stability without a chaos agent Europe or an interventionist US. That's what I'm talking about. Left to their own devices, there is not going to be an earth-shattering war where the Arabs are going to just invade Israel. Could Israel self-destruct? Oh, that's always
Okay,
possible.
that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, no,
So,
I'm
but
with
I'm
you
saying that
completely.
but I don't just believe that about Israel. I believe that about anyone. I believe any country could self-destruct.
Yeah, well, it's
You
a little
know,
different when they have nukes and they've got it as a threat, a sword of Damocles.
again, I think the reason why the Cold War never went hot and was fought through proxies was because there was an understanding that the U.S. would use nukes if it came down to the doomsday scenario. It's a mutual destruction thing. With Israel, it's not even mutual. It's just an assured destruction thing. I think that that's kept the major Arab parties, and what, by the way, I think that's why you're seeing such a huge change, which you're the one who pointed out to me in the Middle East. I think that's why you're seeing the Saudis and the Qataris and the
You
UAE
think
and
it's
all
because of
of them.
Israel's nukes?
No, I think they're just tired of fighting.
Yes, well, I
They
agree with
want
that.
to
I
modernize
agree
and
with
they
that.
realize that we're at a point right now where they're not going to establish a means to destroy Israel just because they keep trying to build up to that.
Yeah,
Because it's going to consume them just as quickly as it's going to consume Israel.
I agree with that.
So,
Take the nukes out of the
so
conversation. I agree with that.
So what
Absolutely.
I'm saying though is that it is because of that doomsday scenario in the past, let's say, maybe that'll explain it better, that we've gotten to where we are right now in that they understand that creating radicalized Muslim societies is going to eat them longer than before it's going to eat the West. Okay. And so they're not fighting us on these things anymore. In fact, they're kind of with us on it. Like look at this thing with Iran, right? The Arabs are with the fucking Al Qaeda is supporting the US on this. You know what I'm saying?
Because we
Like,
created Al Qaeda.
well, I know. I was just having this discussion with someone this morning, funny enough. But when I said that they hold the nuke, what I meant was they'll be left to their own devices. Whether they self-destruct, that could very well be. As I said, I believe that's possible with anyone.
Yeah,
And
well,
if they did, do I believe America would do something to neutralize the fact they have nukes because they're on the brink of self-immolation? Yeah, I believe that. I
yeah,
believe that that's probably true.
I agree with
They're
that.
not going to let, like, just like Pakistan. If all of a sudden tomorrow the tribes from the border started running down into the leadership of Pakistan, claiming that in the name of Allah they're going to nuke all of India as soon as they take control, I believe the U.S. would do the same thing. They would use whatever force necessary to stop that from happening. Or if India was doing the same thing and it looked like Pakistan was going to launch against India, I think America would do the same thing. They would do whatever necessary to stop that. I agree with you on totally. That's not what I meant. What I meant was is that I believe any country can self-destruct. I don't believe Israel's in a position where they're going. When you said I don't know if they survive, I took it meaning that the Borg that be around the world comes in militarily to
No,
destroy
no,
them.
no,
I
no,
don't
no,
see
no.
that.
No, it would self-destruct from within. factions with
I accept
power.
that's possible with
Yeah.
anyone, but it could definitely happen with Israel.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
it may still happen
100%
here in the
true.
U.S., right? We're not too far behind either. We
Well,
haven't even
that's the
got to
argument
our
we have about
conflict
whether
yet.
it's going to go to civil war. Is that
Or it
I
already
don't know.
is. Just does it go hot?
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's enough people willing to fight for what's left.
It only takes one
That's
to three
that's
percent.
I know,
It
but
only
it
takes
also
one
could
to
lead
three
to
percent,
balkanization, not
and we got more
not.
than that.
But I'm saying it could lead to balkanization, not
That's
revolution
it. You're going
and
to have
occupation.
balkanization initially, anyways, until it all shapes
Hmm.
up. Again, I caution people to look at the Spanish Civil War, 1936, 1939, and I would look at the decade leading up to it as well, because that is the closest parallel to where we are. Not exact perfect, but it's pretty close.
The problem is that there's all parallels are very hard to use to
Well,
judge
that's why
what's
I
going
said
on right
close.
now.
I didn't. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I said. I qualified and said it's not perfect, but it's the closest.
Hmm. No, I agree with that. I agree with. But again, I told you, a lot of times I'm having trouble articulating my points at this point because I'm angry, and B, I feel like I'm watching them fill up the Hindenburg with fucking hydrogen, and like I'm telling them like stop, hydrogen is flammable, and they're like, ah, fuck it, who cares? It's
Well,
not a big deal.
it wasn't just the hydrogen, it was the coating for the balloon itself, the canvas and the balloon itself
Right,
was
but you know what I mean.
silver
Like,
whatever, and so it's a whole yeah.
yeah, but that's my point. Like, I feel like I'm looking at everything and going, wait a minute, we can come out of this. Like,
Yeah.
we're not too far gone, and everyone's like, no, fuck you, Jew. And I'm like, okay, great. So I guess maybe we can't. You know what I'm saying? Like
Well,
if no one can be listened to because you're white or Jewish or because you're half black or if your racial identity is going to be used to exclude you from the conversation, no matter what, then we've lost already because there's no
yeah, well,
cohesion
but
amongst
hold on
anyone
a second.
anyway.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Halsey. But again, who gives a fuck who's talking? I don't give a fuck what the conversation is. Again, this gets back to the only real currency is violence. That's it. All the talking means shit. Now, does it influence things? Does it impact things? Yeah, probably. It's a front in the conflict that you have to fight. The narrative war is the war you always have to fight, but it's not the real war. The real war is actual no shit, people dying and the
Yeah,
ability to kill
but
people getting destroyed. That's the real.
I just
So
don't know
we
if we're
pay
I don't
attention.
know if we're there.
Well, we're doing it. I mean, look what we're doing. We are disarming the old empire. And we're
Hmm.
disarming our own, and we are disentangling from our entanglements with them out in the outer periphery.
Hmm.
We're also working and trying to do that as hard as we can in the halls, in our own halls of power and influence and economics, etc. But I don't pay much attention to the talkers. Fuck the talkers. They can have their conversation. We have to look at what's actually happening, and what's actually happening is rather extraordinary. And it's got some very, very dangerous thing, because again, there's factions in all things.
Hmm.
And, these factions, this resentful factions, like the book I wrote, The Eternal War, they do collaborate and they can
Hmm.
bring about and they can derail and they can do some really horrible things.
I mean, look what they did in Ukraine.
Look what they're doing in Ukraine. Yes.
I mean, talk about something that should have never happened, but the fact that it's still going on is absurd.
Look at the conflict in
Like,
Balochistan. Why is that still
mhm.
going on? Who's funding that? Who's backing that? Who's stirring all of that problem up? How is that
Yep.
going to get dealt with? Right? So we're in a very dangerous place. And I agree with you. The solid peoples of the world are doing what they can do to undo the last 400-year, fuckery machine that's been made global.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, there are factions within each of those solid peoples who would rather see the world burn to the ground than change that parasitic system in any form
100%.
or fashion. And they are also at the same time, however, looking at, okay, if we lose the old infrastructure, and this gets to, again, the book I wrote, The Eternal War, the doctrinal line agenda. What is their agenda? They're always embedding the parasitic system in what comes next, what emerges. So we could destroy the old system, which is already destroyed anyways, right? The host is already hundreds of trillions of dollars in debt and dysfunctional, and populations are collapsing and all, right? So the old host is dead. So, okay, we have to pay attention right now in this transition to we don't burn ourselves down. We don't allow these factions to burn ourselves down, whether it's in Israel or here or wherever it is, or all. At the same time, we have to look at, okay, and this is where my more concern is, as somebody who thinks across generations and centuries, is how are they embedding that parasitism into us right now? And that is this Indian, Israel, US alliance vector. And it's happening everywhere at every level, all around us. All we're doing is embedding the same parasitic system through a different ethnic vector. We could win all these little fights, right? We could win all these little fights. We could realign all we want, but now we are completely infected with the exact same system, only now through a different ethnic group.
Yeah, but I'm going to try to pull it together for you. That maybe you'll get what I meant.
Because I don't have it together.
No, pull what we're talking about together in what I meant. Okay, is that you had said a while ago that the end result is that Israel most likely becomes the Silicon Valley of the Middle East, right?
I hope so. Yes.
And I truly believe that since they're not big enough, nor held the population big enough to accomplish that in practice, they can only do it in what did you say, managerial class style?
Yeah.
That's where the India-Israel alliance kind of comes from. Okay.
You've got a lot of brilliant engineers in Saudi Arabia and UAE. I went to grad school with them. Brilliant.
I'm not. I don't know if I'm disagreeing with you on that. I just don't. I don't think that that's on the table right now. Okay. I think in the future
they also have the industrial parks that they invested heavily in, and manufacturing centers and all of that. You've got the manpower and the populace right there in the region. Why the fuck do you need to bring in tens of millions of Indians? Hundreds of millions.
No, I didn't say bring them in. UK no, I'm saying. One place does the managing, one place does the manufacturing, which is in India. One place is the marketplace that benefits from it all, which is the US. I'm not suggesting exchanges of populations, nor am I suggesting that this would be an open flow of borders. I'm probably more anti-immigration than you are. I want to deport people that are citizens. So, I mean, like, I have no problem with that. Like, when people ask me, they're like, oh, well, who would you limit on immigration? Everyone. I would close the border for the next 20 years and kick out every illegal and probably half the legals.
What's that quote from what's that quote from John Wick where the guy that's about to kill him, he says something and John agrees with him and he goes, finally, common ground. Halsey goes, I think we should deport citizens. We all go, hey. Sorry, keep going.
Deep breath. Oh, I love that fragrance.
Whether I like Indians or not, and my personal opinion aside, I only want them to make India great again. I don't want them here, period.
There you go. So again, I have nothing against Indians, but I know how they're being used.
But what I'm saying is when you said that the end result of October 7th was that Israel would get to survive as kind of the Silicon Valley, what I'm talking about is that the vector of the alliance is not about one of population switches and all of that. It's about staying in your lane. That if Israel is the Silicon Valley and India is the manufacturer and America is basically the end beneficiary, right? Because they get the technology and all of that to market to the world, which they do. They get the financial benefit.
So, Halsey, I'm going to disagree with you on one little thing, just economic thing, right? And regional stability thing. UAE and Saudi Arabia, and I know Dr. Newton Howard, who wrote His Majesty's 2030 plan, modernization plan. UAE and Saudi Arabia have invested heavily in industrial parks, manufacturing capabilities, all of that. They need to employ people in their own countries. They need and want to diversify away from oil. If Israel was going to be a good neighbor, they would be working with the local countries and not frickin' India that's all the way on the other side. India's fine.
I actually agree with you on that. I just don't think, for some reason, and I don't know why, I would probably attribute it to the European Borg, is that we're not there yet. I'm not saying it's not going to come. I'm just saying we're
Yeah.
just not there yet. Like, there's not going to be in the next, let's say, year, there's not going to be a case where Israel and Saudi Arabia sign a peace pact and start working together industrially. They'll do it behind the scenes.
Yeah. Okay. So
But what
again,
I'm
if
saying
I
is
was going to be a good neighbor and I wanted to heal the rifts in certain ways, I would very much focus on Saudi Arabia, UAE, and a couple of the others, but those are the big ones.
They're already doing it with UAE.
On helping them actually make this diversification succeed. I would really work,
So I
and
could
that would
see.
go
I mean,
so
they're already
far.
doing it with UAE. They're already doing it with the UAE, and it's been wildly successful. That's why they call Dubai Tel Aviv East.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
again, maybe I'm just wrong on timelines, but I fully
No.
agree with you. We're just not there yet. But with India and Israel, we are there right now, in that they will work together on those levels. Could that change if then it
Factional as
could.
well, and that's the British faction trying to reoccupy us. Of
Yeah,
course they're doing that. Of course they were. That's what we would do.
But I think that India's diversification into different partnerships, which they've been forming, a lot of different partnerships, is because they're also trying to shed the same Borg.
No, they're not. They're flooding. No, they're not. They're flooding Ireland with 5,000 a month. They're right in front of our eyes, replacing the entire Irish population in Ireland. They're doing the exact same in the United Kingdom, in Australia, New Zealand, Canada. One for one, complete replacement of the populations right in front of our eyes.
But isn't that the shedding of the European Borg? Like, if they're conquering Europe through population, it's the same as conquering them militarily.
Correct, and it's happening here.
But that's what I mean about shedding the European Borg, is that their relationships with Europe, I see, are much different than, because their relationships with Israel are economic and based on defensive technologies and different kinds of high tech vectors. They're not exchanging populations at all.
Yeah, we're not talking the same thing, or we're not seeing the same thing. All right,
maybe
we are under invasion. We are under
yes
invasion. And if
here,
Israel,
100%.
And here. And if Israel participates in this in any form or fashion, they're still going to have the same label as they do now. And there will be the
I
same
can't imagine
hate.
Israel participating in that at all. How does Israel participate in the invasion of, you mean because the wars that are being fought, that the populations get displaced?
Because India becomes the enemy. And if Israel's aligned with India, they are the enemy.
I could say, you know what? I could see that being true. I don't think that that's being considered in long-term planning at the time. I could see that being what's the word?
Unintended consequence.
Yes, sorry. I've told you I'm having trouble making words the last couple of weeks,
good.
but I'm just saying that I could see that. I could definitely see that. But I'm just saying I don't think that that's right now being considered as part of what's going on. Okay, that if that does, like, I bet even if people are talking about it, they're probably talking about it. We'll deal with that when it happens. You know,
Meanwhile,
like,
another 10 million fucking people from India show up.
which
in our country.
I just told you, I have a problem with 10, let alone 10 million. So
Yeah. Well, I'm not pointing any of this at you, Halsey.
I know.
Yeah.
But again, me and Tom Luongo constantly get, like, I know a lot of people call you like Mr. Black Pill, and people call me and Tom Luongo rosy cheeks. That we see everything through a rose-colored lens.
Black pilled.
Because you always think that we're going to go to a hot civil war at some point. You know, how many look at my comments? Whenever I comment on anything you say on Twitter, I'll get a bunch of people.
Most of those people are fucking Jew haters.
I've never thought EM is a not saying you are.
I don't think she is either.
Not saying
Not
saying that you're saying that,
anyone
Halsey.
else.
Yeah, not saying you're saying. Not saying that you're saying that, Halsey. Yeah, I've never looked at EM as Black Pill.
What I'm saying is the morons out there will see that what EM's saying seems like doomsaying, and they'll see what me and Tom's saying is being overly optimistic. We don't see, you know.
I get that, but
and I think that we're just
write and read the books and read the
same thing with me.
Right?
Like, I'm not overly optimistic. I just don't believe Armageddon happens. I mean, I'm a religious person. I believe Armageddon happens in a framework of God. I don't believe that we're going to bring about our own Armageddon. Humanity seems to survive the most horrible shit on Earth. So, I don't know the future of where everything's going to go. I try to analyze it best I can, but I don't see we're in such a horrible place right now. I see a lot of good things happening. So I'm very hopeful at this point. Could it all? And that's why I keep saying 2028 terrifies me, because we could easily reverse it, and it could go the opposite direction completely overnight. You know, if all of this was just bullshit so that they could take the presidency, House, and Senate and pack the court and do away with any voter protection and fuck up the country in 2028, then this is all a nonsense conversation anyway, because it's going to accelerate to lunacy in 2 days. But for now, I see a lot of the moves being made, and I see them as being a positive thing for the future. That's what I see.
Yeah, I won't disagree.
I haven't interrupted just because I'm letting you guys go. We can let me know. We can wrap it whenever.
No, I actually do got to run. I didn't realize
yeah.
what time it was.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up.
And as I said, this is better because if I didn't have this conversation with EM, I would have called him right after the show, and then about right as the sun was setting, I'd go, "Holy shit! I haven't done anything to get ready for Shabbos." So,
all good, all good. Well, yeah, guys, thank you both for doing it. As always, guys, please go in the description. Links to Twitter's, podcasts, blah 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 blah, books, all that good shit in there. And Halsey, EM, as always, thank you guys for your time, and look forward to the next one.
See you guys.
thank you,
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you for watching, everybody. Take care.